my black and white scarf, my black and white scarf, my black and white scarf, my black and white, yeah, it's black and white, we're just black and white, it's my black and white, it's my black and white scarf.
Dude.
Am I on mute, Chris, or are you on mute? You're on mute. So we're going to try and fix this, are we, Chris? Welcome to the Town End Podcast. Caught me completely off guard. Mark, you're first in the door. Yeah, Jams, phenomenal. I mean, you're talking a young lad. I keep mentioning Vinnie Leonard. You know, he's getting younger every week, as we say. He's probably 13 years of age at this stage. An Irish international as well. Unbelievable. Another game, another night at Oriel Park where we have come up against a team in Bray that we don't really know what you're going to get sometimes, but it's been, as Tom O'Connor had mentioned in the comms, it's level pegging this season with results. We beat them well up in Bray that night. We will be joined by Chris when he gets his microphone on, and we'll be joined by Niall Newbury in a couple of minutes as well to discuss the game. But yeah, Mark, it's a serious performance tonight. I think the biggest thing for me that I took was we wanted on the forefoot. We went at them. You know, we'd quick release of the ball, quick passing, no hanging around, quick throw-ins. Everybody wanted a bit of the ball. Everybody wanted to move forward as quick as we could, and it just seemed to be a game where we didn't really let Bray settle on the ball. We can talk about it. Bray probably thanked our lucky stars.
Could be back.
They're in the league. Chris, you're back, are you?
I was
just getting into a role there. I don't need you for a minute. Stay with
I like it. Yeah. This is your opening monologue. I like it.
I'm just saying, like, there's no point in talking about how poor Bray are, because where they are in the league is maybe a measure of what's, where ourselves and Cove are. We're that little bit ahead. We've got that little bit of financial backing and probably maybe a better pedigree of young players coming in as well. But I mean, it's a performance where we just we were the better team from start to finish. Not a fantastic match, but I mean, our performance going forward, I thought, was just excellent. We just wanted the ball forward all the time. We took everything on the forefront. Like I was just saying, even with throw-ins, it was just fast throw-ins, fast release of the ball, and we just seemed to want it a little bit more than. We definitely wanted it more than Bray, I suppose.
Yeah, I definitely got that impression as well, that we, right from the very start, obviously the early goal really says that. But even when I looked at the lineup, I was kind of looking, going, hang on, where's Harry Groom? He looks actually to be the furthest one, because that allowed Tracy and Dervin then to kind of sit in and push him forward, which probably meant he was kind of more in the 10, and it gave you that attack in front four with obviously no Darryl in tonight. There was going to be some sort of predicament of where everyone was going to fit in. But that seemed to really help and galvanize us all. And Ruby just looked like he was up for it again. He looked like he was on one tonight as well. So I think
even his link-up play tonight was excellent. We talk about his goals, but it was almost kind of where Owen Kenny, you maybe expected him to play enough. He always played at a 10 at times, and if we even take his goals out of his work rate again, and we always seem to mention his top class.
Yeah. But like two different finishes as well tonight, which we'll get on to. Like we'll talk about the first one. It's a beautiful cross in, but that header back from where the ball came from, it's so hard as a keeper, because your momentum's going one way and next minute the ball's going the opposite. It's very hard to shift and change and get yourself down to them. So it's beautifully placed. And we've kind of lamented that maybe, against Kerry, and that we went behind to a goal, and we always felt we have a way to get back into it, but it was important for us to actually be on the front foot for a change. And that seemed to be it for pretty much that first half. We dominated and were good, at least for that 2-goal lead. I'm sure if Bemi sees that chance just before halftime for his hat trick, he won't believe how much space he's in. But just that goal is excellent. Like you say, his hold up play in general was brilliant, and that fast play, you've seen that for the second goal. That the ball goes out for a throw in, they're quickly taking it. a second ball creeps on the pitch for a quick second, which is dispensed of. And by the time Killian Cantwell and the Bray defence have tried to get themselves back in a line again, it's too late, and Arubi's in acres of space, and it's a beautiful finish for him, you know. And the funny thing is, now you're looking at, he's on 9 goals. You've got Dean Ebbe on 9 goals. Obviously, we had Daryl ticked over on 10 the previous week then as well. So from not having an out-and-out goal scorer, it looks like we're going to have just a lot of goals in the team before the end of the season. You could have 2-3 players more on 10 goals or more this year, which probably says more about our playing style than anything, that we're not just reliant on that one player. It's definitely all a massive team effort. Like, and
I think so. I think we all, when we kind of mentioned the start of the year, we were always worried where it's not that we worried where the goals were going to come, because we signed the top goal scorer from last season in the league. I think we were more worried where, like you say, where we were going to have to rely on one particular player. We didn't know, you know, Arubi had been at decent clubs, and I think he made, was it like 9 starts, 9 games, or 14 matches in total before he played for us, something like that, something really low. And then he'd Owen Kenny, who's been out on loan, you know, obviously had a decent spell at Wexford. You know, you could see the talent that was there, but we just didn't know what we were going to get from. I think we ultimately may have signed too many. You know, we might have had too many wingers, too many forward players. Like, how wrong was that? Because they've been needed. You know, we've had players in and out with injury. We've had players, you know, a couple of suspensions, things like that. And you know, I think again, we're talking about this squad that have been kind of chiseled and galvanized with the two boys, and you know, and obviously Liam Burns is not at the club anymore. But I just thought tonight was kind of a, you know, it didn't need to be a 4 or 5 or 6-1. It was just a good, clean performance, a 3-1. Yes, you know, we've conceded a goal. And, you know, Peter Sherry's clean sheets, goals at the window, but it just seemed like a much cleaner performance. Although we haven't absolutely pummeled them, you know, that 3-1 is as good as probably anything we produced this year, really, in terms of just wanting the ball, and you know, Groom kind of pulling the strings in midfield again, and you know, you have Owen Kenny lighting it up again with a great finish, and a Ruby for me. I know we're not man of the match yet. There's a couple of people in for it, but again, Ruby's done himself no harm whatsoever to be that starting man. And I just thought from the word go, we were just on it. You know, we really were. Like, again, you know, I'm probably being, what the word? I'm probably being harsh.
You be careful what you say.
Yeah, I'm probably being harsh, and we're not even at our best. You know, we're really, but I mean, it's good enough. It just seems to be good enough every week, because we're a little bit of cut above, although we're not as far as we'd like to be from Cove Ramblers. I think if you even just look at the work rate of Kenny and a Ruby together for the goals, it's fantastic. It's a real kind of stamp of approval that the boys have got this right this season with the signings.
Yeah, I think the early goal tonight showed our hunger tonight, but that, like you say, the performance probably for the rest of that first half, it's probably one of the most dominating first half that we've had all season.
Yeah,
and it really showcased where we're good, because I'm seeing a few man of the match nominations coming in from Vinny Leonard, who I thought had an immense night tonight. Really bossed it, carried the ball really, really well into space. Was unlucky, you know, maybe on the end of 1 or 2 set pieces, but in a game where you had a striker score 2 goals and another attacker score another one, we're talking about one of our centre backs, you know, being up there for a man of the match nomination. So I think it's going to be one of those again, where, you know, there's plenty of players standing up at this time of the year and really putting their hand up to be a crucial part to this. And I think that's the key part. Is a bit like with the goals coming from everywhere. We're not reliant on that one player. We're not. Like I just checked it there. Daryl's got 10, Dean Ebbe's got 9, Ruby's on 9, and Owen Kenny's on 8. So like that's we could potentially have 4 players on over 10 goals this year. And we lamented previous years, in particular last year, that we weren't scoring enough from other positions. Like, this seems to be everyone is contributing. Everyone wants to get involved. Owen Kenny setting up and scoring tonight as well. You know,
he's becoming that player that I think
he's got a lot more confidence.
Yeah, and that's it. Like I think Tom had mentioned on the comms tonight that, you know, Owen Kenny a couple of months ago mightn't have scored that, mightn't have taken that on, might have taken maybe an extra touch, but now he just has that little bit of confidence where he wants it out from his feet as quick as he can, and it's just a finish. You know, even the quick finish of a Ruby tonight for his goal, left-footed. You know, they've got everything. These players have now kind of, they become almost up. They're picking themselves every week. They can play either side, either side of the pitch. They can play up front. They can play as tens. You know,
there's a fluidity around that top front four, isn't there?
And of course we're, you know, not to sound pessimistic, it is the first division. We'd like these boys to kick on and you know, repeat some of this in what hopefully be the Premier Division in a couple of weeks' time. But you know, we can only play what's in front of us, and I think the boys have just really kind of definitely going forward. There's not really a team as close as Cove Ramblers are. There's probably not a team that can live with us. I mean, the top three are probably the best in the league by a good distance.
Yeah, just on Owen Kenny, I think he's definitely grown in confidence as the season went on. I think perhaps at the start of this year there was a pressure on him to score the goals and find a way into this team, but I think he has definitely grown into that probably outside right position in the front three.
Yeah.
And his touch has got a whole lot better. He's getting into the right places. I think Stevie McDonald said on co-coms that probably earlier in the season he'd try to take another touch for that goal tonight, but he had the confidence just to hit it and bend it straight in. And then you see for the second goal the cross in, and you know, even just getting himself into positions. I think Stevie said he's got Tech 7 boots. The ball just seems to stick to them. Move it on. Gallia like that one. Tech 7 boots on him, but he does, and he's willing to take on players and get them into those positions. So I think you're just probably seeing a far more confident Owen Kenny now,
100%.
And that's to the benefit of the whole team, where he doesn't feel the pressure of I have to score all this. Now it's if I'm just in amongst the goals, I'm contributing in some way. I'm getting the assists. And he's chalking up the goals too. So fair play to him on that. I see Niall is there. Andrew, if you want to bring him in.
Yeah. No, maybe we won't bring him. We'll just leave him sitting there with his gleeful head, and he's going to come in there and teach us a few journalistic wisdoms. Niall, welcome to the podcast. You were obviously at Oriel Park tonight. I suppose we haven't stopped talking about Owen Kenny and Ruby since we started, but we're probably going to go straight there with yourself as well. I mean, it's although it's only 3-1. It's 3-1 at home against any team in this division is not bad, especially where we are in the league and kind of kicks on the journey for the next couple of weeks. But what did you take of the performance of the team in general? I suppose, not just talking about Owen and Ruby and Groom and whoever else you want to mention, throw into that hat.
Thanks for having me on, lads. First of all, I mean, obviously Kibemi Ruby getting the 2 goals tonight. I mean, that's where the headlines are. But I know I jumped in there when he was chatting about Owen Kenny. I mean, for me, I think he was the man of the match. Just everything around his involvement tonight. You know, only coming back, not even barely 24 hours from international duty with the under-21s with Northern Ireland. I mean, he was superb, and he has been superb. I mean, you go back to when he got that goal in Kerry. He was kind of coming under a lot of criticism at that stage of the season, and I remember speaking to him that night down in Tralee, and you just felt, even from talking to him, it was a massive confidence boost getting the goal and performing well that night. And he seems to just gone from strength to strength since then. And you're now at the point where you had called for him to be dropped from supporters at one stage. Now, like, him not being there last week was seen as a huge disadvantage, to be honest. So yeah, I think he was superb tonight first. But I mean, all around, I thought it was a well-rounded display from Dundalk. Maybe taking away the last 10 minutes where I thought we looked a little bit unsettled, looked a little bit unsure of ourselves after Bray got the sort of consolation. But like, I think given what happened against Bray in Oriel Park the last time we played, I think there was a little bit of nervousness that had sort of crept in. So I think that was there. That was there. So I think but listen, they held firm Dundalk, and I mean, they ended up getting 3 points, and I think overall it was a good day at the office. Peter Cherry in goals tonight looked quite assured. The back four, like Vinnie Leonard again, another lad has come back from international duty just yesterday. I mean, there was one stage there where he looked like the prime Franz Beckenbauer, you know what I mean? Just took the ball and think he took it around 2 or 3 Bray players at one stage. You know, not only did he win the ball back, he took it around 2 or 3 of them. It was superb to watch, really, and you can kind of see why there's so many clubs near and far kind of looking at him. I mean, he's not just a defender. You know, he's a good ball player as well. So, but yeah, I spoke to J.R. Wilson there as well. He's filled in well at left back since he's come in, since Sean Keogh departed. You know, Dervin, warrior like again, got a yellow card, means he misses the Longford game, a little bit of a blot on the copy group tonight, I suppose, other than the goal we give away. I thought Shane Tracy was really good. Had a direct involvement in Kenny's goal as well. He's another lad, you know, you could probably play him anywhere. He was superb tonight, I thought. Harry Groom sort of playing in the number 10, got involved quite a lot in the attack and play. Owen Kenny's superb, as we already mentioned. Declan McDade, you know, his quick innovation with the quick throw as well, which kind of led to the second goal. Gibemi Ruby obviously getting the 2, needs no introduction there. So I think all round it's very hard to pick an underperformer in that team tonight. You know, Conor O'Keefe as well, you know, really goes unnoticed. Mayowa again. So it's very hard to pick an underperformer in that 11 tonight. I mean, I think they all chipped in their own way, and I think the Dundalk were fully deserving of the 3 points, despite that last 10-minute spell where we kind of looked a little bit unsure. But I think overall, the Dundalk were deserved winners tonight.
Yeah, and I think if there was any disappointment, it's probably just that Bemi Rumi didn't get that hat-trick. He was given plenty of opportunities, and he'll rue that one just before half-time. But to be fair, for the way, the composure and the skill in the first 2 goals, it's kind of hard to take that away from him as well, isn't it? Like we were talking about whether Dundalk needed an out-and-out goal scorer this year, because it seems like goals are coming from everywhere. But the way this goes, and it looks like it could go, we could end up probably with 4 players with over 10 goals this season. And that's showing you, 1, competition, I suppose, up front, but 2, how important the whole team is. And then the contribution from everybody, in particular those front 3, 4, to how Dundalk play.
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. And I think it's kind of good to see it now, because I mean, earlier on in the season, those criticism was kind of that maybe we weren't scoring enough goals. I think I've lost count now of how many goals we've actually scored in the last 6, 7 matches.
700.
Yeah, something like that, Andrew. In the last 6, 7, 8 games, I mean, they've been free scoring, and tonight was no different. You know, you've chipped in with another 3 tonight. Even the game that drew with Kerry, you know, it was 3-3. You still scored 3 goals. Now the game in Wexford last week, there was obviously a lot of subplots to why that maybe happened last week, but it didn't really affect us too much in the end. But I mean, overall, they've been free scoring. You got Darrell Horgan, who's obviously out tonight. He's on 10. Gibemi Arubi's on 9. I think Owen Kenny's on 8 now, I believe. You know, Dean Ebbe, for all his critics, is still on, I think it's 9 as well. So, I mean, there's goals coming from all over on the pitch. And I mean, look, obviously, like Darrell Horgan has been had our most goal involvements with 10 goals, 10 assists. He was out tonight, and obviously a lot of the pre-match talk was around like the fact of, was he going to be available? And I mean, we didn't really miss him there tonight, which is testament to the rest of the squad, because you know, Darrell Horgan's been our talisman this season, and you know, the fact that we didn't really miss him majorly there tonight against a team that's effectively 3rd place in the league, who still had an outside chance of automatic promotion themselves, I think was testament to the rest of the group and the players that played tonight. I mean, and you know, I just think, but yeah, the goals. I mean, the goals. We've been free scoring, and like that was a big issue at the start of the year, or certainly even in the middle point of the season, where maybe we weren't hitting the net. And I mean, that's definitely changed now, and there seems to be real confidence in front of goal now, and real composure in front of goal. And I think Owen Kenny, as we've already mentioned, not going to harp on all day about the lad, but he is probably testament to or epitomises how the Dundalk's fortunes have changed in front of goal, I think.
Yeah, Gally, is the other element when you kind of look at this team as well, you know, you look at the substitutes that we were able to bring in tonight as well. I mean, I think any other team in the first division would be, you know, calling out to be in a position to be able to bring on Dean Ebbe, Wardy, Andy Parashev, you know, like it's ridiculous, you know. And it was good to see Luke Mulligan getting back in as well, because he probably had a tough first half against Kerry, so to be able to come back in and have a bit more composure on the ball and that tonight shows how much he's maturing as a player as well. But you know, when you look at that bench, it's really, really strong, and probably that's what we missed in that Wexford match last week.
Yeah, I mean, we look at we're blessed with riches. I mean, we like you said, that bench probably starts at any other team in the league, and probably, you're probably like even Enda Minogue on the bench. Peter Cherry, 42 years of age, having a great run. Like Enda Minogue probably plays at the most Premier Division teams. Like that's, and it's a set of circumstances he finds himself in, and that's you go with form. That's just the boys are entitled to do that. But a bench that would get into any other team, and sometimes I mentioned it before. Like I know there's a rule around subs, and you got to get players on. Sometimes you can make too many subs. Sometimes the subs can come in and you've got to start an 11 there that are absolutely on fire, and then you're thinking the boys' heads must be right. Like, do we make subs? Do we bring in such and such? Now it's hard to keep someone like, I'd say it's an absolute nightmare keeping someone like Andy Powershift on the bench. I'd say
Wardy would wreck your head.
Oh, like he's a torture. Like I have kids there at under 10s that are like pulling it, like, let me on. Can I get on? I'd say keep Ward's the exact same. I must be head wrecked for the boys. But I mean, we are blessed. But that's at the same time, these boys have come in and are. The big thing for me is that they're willing to be, and I don't mean to use a term, but squad players is the wrong term. They're all squad players, but they're happy enough to muck in and say, right, I'll bide your time and get on and make a difference. And you might start next week. They seem to got the mix really well. We keep mentioning it all the time. They've started something. Look, you'd like to see a bit more from other people. Young Malloy, you would have liked to see in certain games earlier on in the season when we were kind of well in the driving seat. But look, that's why Kieran and Ken are there. They're professionals. That's why we find ourselves in the league. But I mean, when you look at the bench that we have and the potential of, yes, you're right. We did miss them in some games. Wexford being one. Mm-hmm. But I mean, in the overall grand scheme of things, we can almost, not almost, but maybe with the exception of Cove, we can probably pick any 11 and go out and they will do a job. Now, I'm not saying they'll win every single match, but, you trust the boys to make them decisions, and you trust the players that we have. Like you said, mentioned Luke Mulligan. And Luke Mulligan was one that I keep saying, Ken Kieran picked him out. He said last year on the show that we done with him that he was one to watch. And he never mentioned Vinnie Leonard. So I think that goes to show the contracts. Vinnie Leonard's name never come up until the pre-season. But they're blessed with riches. But I mean, they've earned it. I mean, they've signed the right players. They've brought in the right amount of youth. And we have the squad we have because of, we carry a good name with it, albeit First Division. We are the biggest club in the country, First Division or Premier Division. But it's nice in a way, but sometimes it can. I think it can disrupt a bit of the game sometimes. But again, you got to get these boys on the field. You can't have them all sitting on the bench. Mm-hmm. Like I go back to, I harp on it with Keith Ward. Imagine that on the sideline, just hammering you not to get on. But I mean, look, the lads have come in, they've bided their time, they're willing to sit on the bench, and that's what you want. They could easily split their dummy, like going mad. I know, albeit First Division, but it's a real team effort. And look, you get what you deserve in most football leagues, and we've deserved everything we've got this season so far.
Yeah, Niall, would you say that concession of the Bray Gold tonight probably led into exactly what Gally said there? Probably just too many substitutes then, and we probably lost that rhythm at the back just ever so slightly and got caught pushing up, and it's a counter attack, and we're one short then at the back.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like Dundalk were coasting through most of this game. I mean, we get the first goal after 8 minutes. Brave had a couple of chances, throughout the match. Don't get me wrong, and there was one even after half time. I think Sean Brennan. I mean, Cherry might see it late, and it sort of drags it just inches wide, really. So Bray had their chances. It wasn't like, and Cherry had to make a couple of saves as well. It wasn't like Bray were completely torn apart as such. But like, you're 3-0 up after, was it 50 odd minutes? We were coasting, and like again, like it's 10 minutes from time. We're on the attack, and it's a free kick actually in our favour, and the ball comes in, we kind of lose it, and next of all, they're off the pitch, and Max Murphy, who I was surprised didn't start actually, by the way, because I think he scored in 2 or 3 games against us this season.
Yeah, he's scored every game. Yeah,
he's a defender, and I don't think there's. I was trying to count this up there the other week. I don't think there's any player with more goal involvements than him, goals or assists, which is quite an oddity for a defender. He does take a lot of penalties.
Yeah,
and he scored twice against us from the spot. But I mean, I was surprised he didn't start, and he actually plays the incisive pass, and it's actually Harvey Warren who's a centre half. who finishes like a striker then, beyond Sherry on the counter. So yeah, that was a blot in the copybook, and I just felt, we've seen it a few times with Dundalk this year. Just when those things kind of happen, we have been coasting the games, and Bray was actually one of them. And you think back to maybe the Treaty game earlier on in the season, and there was a couple of others as well, where we have been coasting the games, and then suddenly a lapse at the back, and you can see in that last 10 minutes, there's maybe a bit of uncertainty and we're a little bit unsure of ourselves. And if that goal is scored on 70 minutes, we could be looking at a very different sort of final part of that game there. And you were nearly glad. I know we were 3-1 up, and we were by far the better side throughout the whole game. But at the same time, you were nearly glad to see or hear the final whistle, because another goal for Bray there, at the risk of sounding obvious, really puts their tails up then, and really has them dog on their guard a wee bit. And we've seen it maybe more often than we'd like this year, where we've kind of thrown points away from winning positions at times. You go back to all those tricky games, barring the last one. I know we got a last minute equaliser against Bray the last time in Oriel, but we were winning that game, and then they scored. I mean, it's happened too many times this year, and this league would probably already be won long ago, had we not lost those points. And that's probably the blot in the copybook. But I think the Dock were very fixated on getting one over Bray. I mean, I spoke to Kieran Clough just a short while ago, and I put it to him about the game down in the Carlisle grounds, and I remember that night we lost 2-0, I think it was that night.
Yeah.
Kieran's adamant that was one of our best performances of the season, and he's maintained that throughout. And I mean, it's probably the only time I was kind of outside the dressing room that night and waiting for Kieran to come out, and it's one of the only times I've really heard Kieran Clough properly lay into the players. He was so fuming. And again, it correlates with maybe the potency in front of goal now, where his big criticism that night was we had so many chances and didn't put them away. It really bit us in the arse, basically. And we lost that game. And I think since then you've seen a real potency in front of goal, and that game was maybe a watershed moment for us down the Carlisle. But I asked him, was there a bit of maybe, and obviously the game in Oriel as well where we drew, was there a bit of, wanting to get one over Bray? And he said absolutely. I mean, he was drilling it into them all week, where that was a big part of their pre-match, was getting one over Bray, because they really felt, and he's really felt, that they were hard done by in that game, that 2-0 defeat down in the Carlisle. So, I mean, but yeah, the goal conceded, I know for the defenders, speaking of J.R. Wilson there as well, I mean, I know for the defenders as well, and Peter himself, the goalkeeper, I mean, it will be a blot in the copybook. But look, you're 6 points clear at the top. You've only got 5, Cove obviously keep winning as well, but Cove are basically running out of games, and there's only 5 matches left now. So realistically, how many of the 5 do you need to win to realistically secure it is the question now. And I don't think they're too far away, lads. To be honest, I think they're nearly there.
Yes, no.
All right.
Yes.
Right.
Chris nearly shut down the podcast last week when I started talking like that.
Better leave.
That's 2-1-1, Chris.
I hate counting chickens before they hatch. But Gally, and the problem with this is, there's Cove with a 3-0 win tonight to keep that pressure up. They, for whatever inconsistencies they've had earlier in the season, and I think in particular when we went down there and beat them, they were on a good run right up to that point, and then they seemed to pull out a couple of draws, perhaps when they should have been looking for wins. But they've definitely turned on the heat, which is good for us, probably because we know we can't afford to drop any points. But another win for them, and it means that the gap stays at 6 points.
Yeah, and that's a great win tonight for Cove. That's a real kind of statement when they haven't, and they've generally kept it. When you look at goals scored in the league, they're right up there beside us. There's not too much. I know for all the goals we've scored, they're not too far behind us either. But we said at the start of the season, they've got a bit of back and they're a team to watch. Yeah, I remember talking. I was down there at a game, our own transplant game, and talking to season ticket holder there, and he said, if Dundalk weren't in this league, Cove would win this with a couple of games to go. Mm-hmm. And I kind of thought at the time, I was like, look, a bit of money, first division's tough, but I mean, there's no doubt about it. If we weren't here, I mean, I don't think anybody, even if you were to put the draw is, or so, I don't know whether they would have the team to go back up that we've been able to sign. So Cove probably would. It almost reminds of the year Leicester had a cracking run in the Premier League that win it, and then stole it off Tottenham. Tottenham thought they were going to win it, and it's one of them that if they weren't in it, Tottenham might have won the league that year. But we just as Niall said, we have a couple of games ago, I don't want to go counting how many games are left. Like how many times we said it, Chris, we don't really want to go into the last kind of 2 games of the season, and the gap is still 6. If anybody's going to drop points, I think it will be Cove. I don't think they'll be bet. I think they might get maybe a draw or 2 between here now and the end of the season, or the last 2 games, and that might
They
kind
still
of
have
just
to
seal it
play
for us.
Bray, don't they?
I think so. They've got Bray. We threw the names last. I can't actually remember now. Bray. Have they Kerry as well?
They're away to Cove next week.
Wexford.
It's
a similar run-in for both of us.
Harps at Cove Bray, when we're away to Athlone that night on the 3rd of October.
And we've also got the Saturday game this week as well. They're on the Friday, are they? So you kind of...
Well, that's an advantage in itself. I mean, by the time we play in Longford, who, with the greatest respect, would be a team that we probably should be putting away. And then you got Athlone down the line as well, who are, non-runners this season, although they're among the favourites at the beginning. I mean, but we play Longford next Saturday, and Cove have to go to Wexford the night before, where we found it very difficult last week. I mean, that's an advantage that we'll know the outcome of that game naturally. Like obviously going into that game against them Longford next Saturday. So, like, you could nearly, like, if Cove don't win, in Wexford next Friday, like, you could nearly more or less wrap it up in Longford. I'm not trying to jump too far. I'm not trying to jump too far ahead, but
I know what you're saying, because we'd have to.
Yeah, like, you have to look at it in the sense of, I mean, I'm with Chris in the sense of, I personally would really like it wrapped up before the fin. People are saying the Harps game, or sorry, the Cove game. I'd want it wrapped up before the Harps game, for the simple reason being that, like, we saw the kind of decimation of the squad there with the last game. The next international window is the 10th. That weekend we're playing Finn Harps and Oriel, the last home game. So you could be missing Owen Kenny, Vinnie Leonard, Sean Spate, Luke Mulligan, or whoever again in those matches, and then they could be coming back on the night before the Cove game, like, hypothetically. So I would like it won personally before the Harps game, even, never mind the Cove game, because
you don't want a big last game trip down to Cove. Nobody want that.
No.
I'll be going down to Cove. I'll be going down to Cove. I'll be going down to Cove, but I'd rather relax, Angie, than be
that'll be something
basically shitting myself, Yeah. But all kidding aside, I mean, I think that's where I'm with it. That's where I'm at with it. I think I just be concerned about the decimation of the squad, and, like, you might have a few injuries as well. I know A. Dervin got like Mayoa and Amasahoon's on 9 yellows, for example, at the moment as well. A lot of things can happen between now and then. So I just think you'd like to have it kind of wrapped up, or at least more or less wrapped up, going into that Harps game and Oriel. And I think, with the greatest respect, like, to Longford, and you got Longford and Athlone in the next cluster of games, like, that should be 6 points. Like, they should be bankers, you'd like to think. I know they're away from home, and we've dropped points in Athlone earlier in the year as well, in a game that was absolutely abysmal, by the way, that I was at. But I mean, but you'd like to think we'd be getting 6 points in those 2 matches. And, like, if we're being realistic, I mean, I know Cove have been on a run, but I don't see Cove winning all 5 games between now and the end. So maybe that's me being glass half full for a change. I don't know. But
like you said, they drop points Friday night and we turn over long. Like, one of the games is us, so provided we just keep plowing along, like, they're still going to play us no matter what happens.
And but that's what the lads. That's what the lads have been. Yeah. But that's what the lads have been saying, Andy. I mean, like, they've been saying that. I mean, I spoke to Norman Garbutt last week as well, and he said that even on the bench last week in the game, like, when he came off, that the players are very focused and fixated on their own results. They aren't really worried about Cove, and I think that's the right way to be, because 100%. He said even when he came off, like, Cove were winning that game, and then Kerry came back to draw 1-0. He said they weren't even checking the result of that game. Like, the bench, like, I mean, you'd think maybe they'd be on the phones looking at it. He said they weren't even looking at the score, and they're just so focused, and they've got such tunnel vision now, that squad, of what we need to do, and that is just win their games and get the points that are required to get promoted. And I think that's where they are. This team, they seem to be on that such a tunnel vision mindset, and I think that's why I think I'm not really worried about them throwing it away at this point. I think they're nearly there. They're not. I know Chris is going to kill me for saying that, but I think, because I guarantee now I'll be on this podcast after Cove, and I'll be telling you I was wrong, but
I'm bringing you back. That's a definite.
Chris is going to edit all this out.
I got that one wrong. Yeah. So I mean, no, but realistically, I think we're only. I mean, this next cluster of games, UCD is one that I'd be worried about as well at home.
Yeah, that's UCD at home.
They, as per usual, they're finishing the season strong, and But I think if you're looking at the Longford game next week, I think that could be a real pivotal weekend if Cove don't get the points in Wexford, which we didn't do. So there's every possibility of that happening. And I think, we're not quite there, but we're basically edging closer. There's only 5 games left, so Cove are effectively running out of matches. So all Dundalk have to do is keep focusing on themselves, basically.
Yeah.
But win it before the Hearts game, please.
Please. yeah. That's the perfect trophy lift night if we can do it. And that's it. I think when you look at those fixtures, you're looking at the fact that Cove have to go away to Wexford, and like I said, we found that tough, perhaps just because of the personnel and everything we had available that night. Then they are at home to Harps and then away to Bray. No, they're home to Bray, sorry. So like Harps and Bray will definitely not be a given for them at all as well. So when you talk about probably UCD will be a tough game for us, but we are at home in that, and you'd like to think maybe that will take advantage of that because we
haven't lost a home in the league this season. So I mean, and we actually had quite a strong crowd there tonight as well. It was one of our higher, just shy of 2,000. It was one of our higher attendances, and that's quite impressive because I mean there was a stage there of the season where the novelty of the first division hadn't just fallen off; it had fallen off a cliff in terms of the attendance dropping. But they seem to come back now in terms of the attendance figures going back up because we're edging closer now to that finish line. It looks like, and tonight there was a good crowd there, and I can't see us losing to UCD at home. I mean, we could draw that game maybe at a push, but I can't see us losing. So I think, look, the Longford at Lone could be banana skins as well. I mean,
This is the thing, isn't it?
We did draw in Athlone earlier in the year in what is possibly the worst game of football I've ever witnessed.
That's true.
And I was unfortunate to be down there in the arsehole of Westmeath, wondering what I was doing with my life, But I think Atlone's confidence is so much on the floor now, where they're literally on 16 points or whatever it is. I just don't see any other outcome than a Dundalk win there, and probably a few goals as well if we're being realistic. Longford could be a little bit more tricky in the sense of they have been picking up a couple of results. But you'd like to think Dundalk at full pelt, and possibly now Horgan mightn't be back for that one. Kieran was kind of saying it could be a couple of weeks, but he doesn't think the season's over basically. But it could be a couple of weeks before he's back. But we didn't. And Horgan's a top class player, but we didn't miss him majorly tonight. That's subject to change, of course. I mean, Darrell Horgan is Darrell Horgan, and I mean you do want him in your team. But I think next week just keep this, as I said, just keep that focus, and we'll be back in the Premier next season. I think the real question is the real question for me will be is what the makeup of the club will look like next season and how we're going to try our best to try and stay in. If we do get in, because that's going to be the next burning question if and when promotion is secured.
Yeah, Stephen Todd has pretty much said that you've probably jinxed everything and I need to knock off your mic ASAP.
Oh, I absolutely have. Yeah, I've just fact it for us all, I think.
Gally, we'll wrap up the game tonight. From yourself, who stood out as the top performer, as man of the match for you?
So I go out the cash and water. We talked there. Sorry, I was picking up Rory's. Not too many people I'd seen. Unless I missed it. Not too many people mentioned Tracy tonight. I thought he was excellent. I mean, it is the usual suspects in many a way. Your Vinnie Leonards. I thought Mayowa was decent as well, but I was going, and I haven't changed my mind. I was going McDade because I thought his influence on the game going forward was excellent. And look, you could have picked anybody from across the front. Ruby as well, it's harsh on him for getting 2 goals, but I thought McDade had such, because I was iffy on when we signed him. I was kind of, this guy's not, I don't know whether this, it might be okay for first division. Can he carry it? I think he's been excellent since he came in. Wilson as well has been excellent since he came in, but on tonight's performance, I thought McDade had a super game. Cutting in from the right and the left, I thought he was excellent. He's had 2 decent chances, one that's hit the side net, and he's walked the goalkeeper more than once. I thought all round. It's harsh on a Ruby, but I think I've given him 17 pizzas this year. So I'm going to go with McDade on this one.
All right, Niall.
That's a good shout on McDade. I mean, I think he kind of falls under the radar now tonight because of the performances. But I mean, he's a clever footballer. I mean, like even the quick throws you mentioned, Andy. I mean, like he did play well tonight, and there was one there, the one hit the side net. And I think a lot of the stand at least thought that was in as well, and he definitely had influence in the attacking front tonight. But as I said, like when I came on the podcast there, I mean, I think it's very hard to pick a player who didn't perform well tonight. I mean, I think they all, in their own way, include like from goalkeeper right up to the front man. I think they all kind of put in their shift. Even like J.R. Wilson there. I mean, playing left back, like J.R. Wilson is a right back, and he's obviously filled in Sean Keogh's absence and has been really, really good, and has done that. But I mean, obviously, Gibemi getting the 2 goals is obviously going to be prime candidate for man of the match, and might be perhaps most people's. Like he also looked, he gave Bray a tower time, as he's done many clubs like this year, and he was another remarkable performer. Shane Tracy, I think, was absolutely superb.
Really
in midfield. Yeah, again, another lad maybe tonight who falls under the radar slightly. Thought he was really, really good. Ed Dervin, you know, obviously minus getting his 10th yellow. Kieran was actually surprised it was only his 10th yellow, to be fair, like, but because that's just the way he plays. Do you know what I mean? He's just a warrior on the pitch.
You need a player like that,
You do, and I think if we're in the Premier next year, big if now, Chris.
There you go. That's better.
You know, that's that pessimism back in. So if we're back in the Premier next year, we're going to need an aid there, because we're going to need to be in people's face. You know what I mean? If we are back in, so he's your man for that. But in terms of man of the match, I mean, sorry, Vinnie Leonard as well I thought was really good.
You've named everyone on me, lads. Come on,
give them all. But for me, I'm going to stick to what I kind of said from the outset. I'm going to go with Owen Kenny. I just think the improvements he's shown. You know, in recent months, it's been superb, and it's really good to see. He's a really nice chap as well. It should be said too. And I couldn't be happier for him. I mean, it's great, and he was superb tonight. I think what's more impressive is he's only back. He didn't get a chance to really even chat to Kieran Clough, I don't think, properly, like, or anyone. So he just slotted back in there with Vinnie Leonard, and I think the 2 boys were outstanding tonight. But I think Owen Kenny, not just for his goal, but for his overall output, I think was superb tonight, and he's my man of the match tonight. Long-winded, I know, but that's my answer.
I expect nothing more. Don't worry. I think Stephen Todd now said you've just had your Johnny Ward moment by nailing us in.
Please, no, don't do that to me.
I just told him to clip this up. Like I for me, it's probably between Arubi and Kenny also. I just thought the output from both of them was exceptional. If Arubi goes against that hat trick just before halftime, you're probably nailed on to get this. But I like the fact that his different types of goals as well that he scored, but each excellent in their own finish. But for me, I agree with you on that one, Niall, is Owen Kenny. We've just seen the maturity, we've seen him grow as a player, in particular over the past few weeks, and I think when you realise that the goal scoring isn't everything, the goal contributions are the most important thing to this whole team. We've seen a far better player in Owen, and like we mentioned at the start, then Gally as well, that goal he scores tonight, if that comes earlier in the season, he's probably looking to take a touch. Yeah. And he misses that opportunity towards he's the confidence to hit that first time and put that straight in and block off everyone, and put it into the net. Shane Tracy with an excellent run on that as well, will feel hard done by after probably doing most of the hard work, and no one gets to finish it. But I think we're seeing the growth of a player over the course of the season. And tonight is just another one of those exceptional finishes from him. So man of the match for me there as well, with a goal and assist. Gally, have we a winner there tonight?
I'm just looking through the names here. We've probably more for Ruby, ironically. I'm going to go with the first one that has Owen Kenny written. Well, let's see who we got that didn't win. Haven't won a pizza reason. Who we got? We are going to go for Mr. Dan Pope. Bum, 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 bum.
Get the bells in.
Dan's missed everybody, but look, he's got Kenny in though.
Dan,
chips, pizza, you know where I am. And then Diet Coke, chicken nuggets.
Jade tried to get at the very end there.
I didn't even see Jane's call. It was just on the cusp of the final. Was your injury time there, Jane? We've gone to penalties here.
We've enough for penalties down the road tonight. Right, gents, I think that's probably about us for tonight. We might, after the next game, probably have a little bit more of an in-depth look. I suppose we'd be closer to the 1 year on from the madness that was around this club at this time last year as well. So, you know, just where we are. And I suppose, Niall, that goes to your question that you kind of mentioned as well of, you know, where we are as a club and where we will be. I think we probably touched on it last week, Ali, but just to get Niall's thoughts on it, because I think when you look at the amount of investment, Niall, in and around this league, I find it hard to believe that there's not people looking at Dundalk Football Club. You know, like Bray with recent acquisition there. We've had takeovers in, you know, Cove at one stage and Kerry and Athlone that we know is there, but, you know, it clearly hasn't helped things in Athlone. But it seems to me that there's a lot of investors looking at the first division right now, and you would say we're that real standout candidate of the illustrious history and everything else behind you. But I do wonder if, because we look like we're in pole position right now, that price or that investment has a different price tag to it, depending on promotion and whether we make that or not.
Yeah. Look, there's no doubt the Dundalk Football Club brings in so much. Like there's so much there to work with. You know what I mean? The supporters, the history, the culture of the club, just how important it is within the community, the town itself. I mean, it's the big focal point of Dundalk as a town even. And the only maybe I'm going to bring the pessimism back in here now, but yeah, like you have all that, but you still have, I mean, and John Temple's done superb in terms of cleaning up maybe the messes that were left behind, or trying his utmost to do that. And it's not been an easy job, I've no doubt about that. And realistically, we probably shouldn't even be sat here tonight talking about a match or talking about certainly promotion or anything like that. You know, we've probably no divine right to have a club at the moment, and that's just the real, like, that's just the reality of what's transpired over the last 12 or so months. Like, I mean, and even beyond that, if we're being realistic, like, you know, well beyond that. I mean, but you still have financial difficulties. I mean, you still have financial constraints and investment. Yes, you could get investment in the Premier Division. That is a possibility. I definitely agree with you there. Are investors going to want to come into a club that hasn't got any sort of immediate, like, European money coming in, or, you know, I mean, there's so much really to think about there. And I'm not saying you won't. And I know John Temple is working hard to try and acquire investment, and he has said that from the beginning, that I think he wanted to get his 80% share down to something like 20%. So he's made no secret of that, and that's his end game, you know, here. And he wants to provide sustainability for the Dundalk Football Club, because the reality is, yes, we've all enjoyed the ride in the first division here, and, you know, there's been ups and downs, and there's been some nice, you know, scenic routes and scenic trips around Ireland as well. But you're going into a Premier next year, which is night and day from the first division. It's night and day, and we kind of got a taste of that with the Sligo Cup match. You know, we played okay that night, but I mean, you just saw the quality that Sligo have, that, you know, teams in the first division just don't possess. And you're not going to be tested in that way in the first division, but you will be in the Premier. I think if I'm looking at it, I think the other thing is, like, I think we're definitely ahead of schedule on the pitch.
Definitely. Yeah.
I think that there's no two ways about that. And I think if the dog supporters would need to be kind of realistic going into next year, it's going to be a long season if we're in the Premier next year. I think that's a given. And because we are very much ahead of schedule, I think a lot of the Dundalk fans would have taken just having a club, and maybe even being in that loan shoes this season. I think a lot of us probably would have taken that this time last year. I remember coming on after John Daly kind of spoke about the players not being paid and the financial constraints. I remember being on that night, and it was quite it was a very worrying night, if I recall. And like, we've come a long way in that in those 12 months. Like, it feels like a longer time, but it's just under a year ago, or just around a year ago now, I'd say.
Yeah, about around a year point.
Yeah, I think it's bang on around a year ago now, lads. And I think, if I'm being realistic, I mean, we're way ahead of schedule on the pitch. I mean, we've no divine right to be top in the first division. You can talk about Premier Division budgets. We didn't even have the biggest budget in the first division this year, you know, if I'm being honest. So, like, in terms of playing staff and stuff like that. So we're ahead of schedule on the pitch. We're definitely on track off the pitch. Not necessarily ahead or behind schedule, but there's a lot of work still to be done. In terms of if we're going to focus on the pitch stuff, I mean, investment could be coming. I don't know. I wouldn't like that could happen, and there has been rumors and stuff like that, but we don't know what's in the pipeline there. If you've seen Leo Gax signing a new deal, if you've seen Aid Dervin signing a new deal, I mean, that would point in a positive direction that maybe there could be something coming in. I don't know. I can't say for sure. But if we're going to focus on the pitch, I think you'd nearly want. But even if you do have investment, you're still going to find it very, very hard. I mean, to stay in that league. I mean, look at Sligo, for example. They've struggled. Yeah. Galway and Waterford are struggling at the moment.
Cork threw a ton of money at it, and it wasn't any good.
Cork threw a ball of money at it, and they look like they're going down harder than we were last year. Mm-hmm. I mean, so I think if we're going to look at it from if we're going to really peel it back and look at it, I think what I'd like to see from our point of view to maximise our chances of staying in the Premier is, I think you'd nearly want to see a Cove win that playoff if they're in it.
Yes.
Extend. I think if you get two teams getting promoted, two going down, it gives a Dundalk, or indeed a Cove, of course, a much greater chance of staying in it, because it gives you a better chance of maybe finishing 9th in that playoff, or possibly even 8th, and staying in the league outright. And then, because if my concern is if Dundalk's the only team to go up in place of Cork City, and it's that simple, I just think it's going to make it even more difficult for, because those clubs, as you mentioned, Chris, have the budgets, they have players in place, they have all that infrastructure there. It'll make the job 10 times harder for us. Whereas if Dundalk and Cove or Dundalk and Bray go up, it makes that task a little bit more realistic and a little bit more attainable. But I think just to make that point, we're ahead of schedule on the pitch. That's testament to the work Kieran Clough's done and the squad have done. I mean, he's working on a shoestring budget. And he's brought in players who not only have been, good on the pitch, but they've been good off the pitch. And I think he was very firm with that at the start of the year when I spoke to him back in November, I think, at the soccer, was it Soccer Writers? No, it was the PFAI Awards. And I spoke to him that night. And that was one of the first points he made to me. I mean, that was the first time I got a chance to interview him, like one-to-one. And he spoke about, that was his big mantra of like, not only getting players, but players who wanted to play for Dundalk. And I think we're there for the fight. Even look at Norman Garbutt there. I mean, the lad 11,000 miles away from home, stayed on and battled his way back to get his first start last week. I mean, things like that. These are the kind of characters you brought in. Mayowa Anamasa, who had Premier Division interest, and stayed with his hometown club. Aid Dervin stayed for the fight. These boys weren't even responsible for what happened last year.
Darryl staying on as captain,
Like Darryl Horgan was the first to come out that night against Derry and said, "I'm going nowhere." I mean, and there's more as well. And like the players he's brought in as well have had that same mindset. They want to get them back in the Premier. They're all on the same page, and that's been reflected out in the pitch various times throughout the season. Is it going to be a challenge next year? Like the challenge next year is going to be greater. Next season, it's going to be far harder to stay in the Premier Division than it is to win the first division. If that makes sense. So I think if you get two teams going up, it maximizes your chances. But look, that's out of our hands. Off the pitch stuff, I suppose that will become more clear in the coming months of where we kind of stand with that, and if there's going to be more investment, I don't know. My gut would tell me that it's going to be quite difficult to do it, and to get that immediately, you might need. It's good. I just think one way or the other it could be a long season. But I just think if the whole Dundalk fan base have that buy-in of understanding that it's going to be a really long struggle, I think we'll be okay. I mean, I think as long as the fans keep behind the club and keep behind the team and understand that like finishing anything above 8th place would be a miracle. Next season, because that'd be the maximum, that'd be the ceiling, I think. But it's not impossible. And I mean, you've got a good young coach there who seems to have the right ideas. You've got a good group of players that's only going to be added to if we get promoted. And but yeah, it's just going to be about realigning, because we spoke about it, when Stephen O'Donnell was here, about maybe, I know I definitely spoke about it, about maybe supporters not really aligning their expectations with what the reality is. I mean, people kept reverting back to the Stephen Kenny days, but at that stage, and you're kind of thinking those days are long gone. Like, you might as well talk about the Jim McLaughlin and Turk Connors days at this point, because that's history, and we all lived that, and we all loved it. But this is a new era for the club now. This is we're in survival mode, and we will be from day dot next year. If we're in the Premier, we'll be on survival mode, and the way it's going to be, and that's probably on and off the pitch, I suppose. Probably realistically, unless we get Sugar Daddy coming in, and
which we always welcome.
which we always, well, I don't know. Sometimes we do. There's been a couple of bad ones, in fairness, but we won't go into that. But I mean, yeah, a sane Sugar Daddy would be nice, I think.
They're even rarer.
And they're even rarer, Chris. So I mean, let's wait and see. I suppose it's the best way I can put that.
Yeah. Well, on Niall's little Braveheart moment there, I think that's the perfect opportunity to wrap it up. We want to thank our sponsors, as always, to Vinny and all the lads in Tony's Pizzeria, to Mark Carlin and everybody up in Black Mountain Studios, and of course Donald Green and Dundalk Village for the overall sponsorship of the night. Yeah, look, we're still not counting any chickens just yet. We're only one game closer. Yet we're still 6 points ahead. So we'll keep going as it is. We will be back, as always, after the Longford match next week. So until then, come on to town.
My black and white scarf, my black and white scarf,